So this is WordPress for PHP devs. This is going to be more high-level type stuff. If I can figure out how to go forward. So I'm Velda Christensen. I don't recognize a lot of faces here, actually, except for Joseph back there. Joseph's one of my coworkers. My website is legendofvelda.com, and that's where you can find the slides. They're just in a little link right there. They actually aren't the very most current version because I have a pretty bad connection here, but they work. If you're one of these people who does better just working along as I talk, or if you get bored or whatever, you can go to this writing a plugin tutorial. It will just step you through everything that you will probably end up doing as a PHP developer. So, and then you can also watch the in-depth slides at WordPress.tv. So I'm shy. I'm really super nervous being up here. Sorry about that. Sometimes when people ask me to speak at conferences, I'm like, why do you want me to speak? I don't understand this, but nevertheless, I am here. I'm not a person who has done development for a living. However, I've worked with a lot of PHP developers. So a little bit of stuff that I've done. I got my start in open source in like 2003 with the Software for Starting Students CD. Did anyone have that? Did anyone see that? It was pretty cool. We just had a CD that had, OpenOffice and Firefox and all these things on a CD because back in the day, it took a long time to download that stuff, right? And so I helped design an interface and stuff for that, helped get that thing organized. I worked for a hosting company for many years started out in support, went into kind of sysadmin stuff, and then into marketing and kind of growing the company. That was really fun. I've been involved with Utah Open Source, which is really cool foundation. Are you guys familiar with it? Have you guys been familiar with Utah Open Source? I'm actually doing a conference in May, I think, called Open West. Last year it had 800 attendees, actually more than 800, probably closer to 900. Really great conference. It talks about everything open source, open hardware, all kinds of stuff. They have a kids track where I'm hoping my kid will be able to present. It'll be fun. So, unless it gets really shy like me, right? So we're going to heard that. Like the Will It Blend people, I worked there for a while and did some stuff with their website and marketing and design and the new boxes that you see at Costco. Currently, though, I work for WordPress.com, which is part of Automatic. By the way, we're hiring. So systems people, developers, people who do themes, people who do support, all kinds of stuff. We're always growing. Right now, there are only 2 of us in Utah, myself and Joseph. So we would love to have more Utah represent. So you can check that out. Just to clarify, who here is really familiar with WordPress.com and WordPress.org and the differences and things? We have a few people here. Just to put it pretty simply, WordPress.org is free software, okay? Matt Malone was one of the original developers of it. It was split off of, BB Press, right? WordPress.com is a service that he founded based on the open source software and on kind of surrounding services that we do with it. It's Automatic is the name of the company. WordPress.com is our best known product. So as developers, you will likely be using the open source version of WordPress because otherwise you're not going to be editing as much PHP. Or, because the WordPress.com, they don't let you get in and monkey around with files and things like that. So why WordPress? Here's a related question, right? I mean, when I say you can use WordPress for a professional site, a lot of times people are like, well, isn't that just for like personal home pages, right? Personal home pages is kind of like where PHP came from. And people use PHP for professional sites, right? I mean, it's a really great analogy. They're the PHP haters, right? I posted something on Facebook about this conference, and my boyfriend's brother posted some disparaging comments about PHP. And I remembered what Rasmus Leerdorf, I can never say his name right now, but this especially when I'm nervous. Oh man, you guys don't get to see all my awesome colors. Anyway, Rasmus Lerdorf has said that PHP is a web hammer, right? It's widely used. Anyone can use it, and the best practice is keep you from getting hurt. That was my comment to Bart, my boyfriend's brother. I said, but none of those points make it any less useful. And then as kind of as an afterthought, I added, but that said, you wouldn't go using a hammer when in fact you need a tile saw. I realize that's not a tile saw, that's an allusion to Elizabeth's talk where she had the musical saw. I don't know if you saw it. But I said you wouldn't use a hammer when you really need a tile saw. And he clicked like on that comment because he's like, yeah, the stuff I'm using is like a tile saw. And I'm like, on the other hand, you wouldn't use a tile saw when you really need a hammer, right? I mean, that would be totally dumb, right? So PHP gets a lot of flack. Sometimes WordPress gets flack in the same way. There's a lot to love here, okay? We're going to go in a countdown list. Number 10 is jobs. This is at San Francisco WordCamp. I don't know if you can read what's going on here. This is a looking for work sign. That's a hiring sign, okay? This was like right at the beginning of the day. By the end of the day, and I couldn't find my picture for that, this side was actually full. But there was a line down the side right here, okay? Because this board had to come over. There are a lot of people who use WordPress. Oh, by the way, we're still hiring, so check it out if you don't mind. Actually, 20% of the top million sites on the web, or I'm sorry, top 10 million sites on the web right now use WordPress. And it's because anyone can use it. It's back to that whole, you know, PHP is for idiots. Anyone can use that, right? Well, anyone can use WordPress. That's not a bad thing. Your parents can use it. Your clients can use it. Your designer can use it. If you've ever been bottlenecked because you've got the marketing team waiting to come up with content or whatever, they can use WordPress. It's really nice. It's super easy to keep updated. Before I did WordPress, I did a lot of stuff with Xcart. And I don't know if anyone here ever did Xcart. You did some Xcart, and you know what happened if, you know, like usually Xcart had all these mods, you could go by mods, and that meant you'd like copy and paste them into your code or run a diff or something like that, which was awesome until you needed to update. And then it was like a total nightmare, right? WordPress is pretty good about keeping things chunked up in a way that makes it really easy to upgrade. In fact, there's automated updates in the current version. And with themes and plugins and pretty much anything else, you just click a little button and click update. Of course, keep backups, right? Like a wise person should. But super easy to update. Awesome documentation, which I'm going to refer to a lot, the WordPress Codex. There's a really strong online and in real life community. We have a good community here in the Salt Lake area. This is just, if you go to wordpress.meetup.com. This is really bad in black and white, but you can see all these dots are different WordPress meetups. Most of them occur monthly around the world. Yeah?
Do you have a meetup here in Salt Lake?
We do. We do. It's on the last Wednesday of the month, and it is just off 123rd South. If you go to WPSLC, you can find details. I'm sorry, WPSLC.com. You can find details there. So it's a great little meetup. The software is 10 years old, which, you know, sometimes you'll get this really awesome piece of software and it's like, yeah, this is cool, and then all of a sudden they just stop. Like nobody's going to develop it anymore, and it just kind of stagnates. This is here to stay, so it's going to be around. You can go ahead and use it. You can use custom post types, which we'll kind of go into a little bit more, but people tend to think of WordPress as just for blogging. You can have blog posts, you can have pages, you can have recipes, all these different types of things. You can create different forms to fill it in. I mean, people use it for everything from address books to just tons and tons of stuff you can do with custom post types, because you can make your own post type and do what you want with it. There are the typical features, of course. The content management, the comment, search engine optimized, media management, user management, lots of plugins and themes. It's translatable. If you write your stuff correctly, you can have it The internationalization stuff is kind of built into it, so that's really cool. And it doesn't automatically translate it for you, but it makes it so that your users in different areas can easily localize, right? Again, with the easy to update and open source freedom. These are all things that, I don't know if you guys, like sometimes when I pitch for WordPress, people are like, oh, we can make a content management system, that's no big deal. I can just pound that out today and it'll be done, but then there are all these other features that the marketing team comes and they're like, oh, but what about this? Let's add this in, and it wasn't on the scope, but you kind of get this massive project by the time you're done. WordPress is a good start. So, and you only have to worry about your own code if you do it right. Here's that was supposed to be a deleted slide. Ways to make WordPress work for you. Basically, there's two different ways to go about it. To modify WordPress without hacking the core, which you want to avoid hacking the core. Hacking the core meaning like going in and just straight up editing the WordPress files, because then when you go to update, you lose all your changes and people will be sad. It's no good. So you have your themes and your plugins, and which one you choose kind of depends on what you're doing. Themes actually can have a lot of functionality built into them. Generally though, as a rule, if you are going to, if you're going to give your customers some functionality that you want them to be able to carry over regardless of what theme they're using, if it's going to be data that's like vital to their site, you want to have it in a plugin because then it'll always be accessible, right? If it's stuff that is specifically related to the theme that you're using, then you can go ahead and put those functions in your theme directly. So as an example, this is a restaurant theme that's available on WordPress.com. People have a little reservations widget. I can get a big long screenshot, but you can see there's a menu. It has the items and the prices and things like that. This particular theme has those functions built into it because in any other theme, there's not automatically some layout that's going to make it work that way. And you could include all those things in a plugin, but then you have to find ways to get around the style, and it's just a big mess. So in that case, it's fine. Go ahead and put them in your theme. There's a functions PHP that pretty much lets you do anything that you can do in a plugin. It's a good choice if your client won't be changing the theme often. This is a good example of one that you would definitely want to work regardless of the theme. This is my old web page that hasn't been updated in ages. But this little contact form right here, you wouldn't want to have a contact form and then have someone change themes and also the contact page is busted, right? That would be bad news. So that's a good case for a plugin. In fact, I would say most things are good cases for plugins. Talking about how to modify themes, okay? There are simple, complex ways to do this. The customization is really anybody can do. You don't really need a developer to do them. Don't have to know any PHP. It's basically stuff like, this is usually built into themes. The only reason I'm showing you this is so that you know what your client and or marketing team or whoever you're working with will have easy control over, unless you choose to limit the control to this, which is possible too, right? They'll be able to change stuff like, colors and the header image and background image, stuff like that. Okay, there we go. That's just built in. The theme customizer usually shows different theme options. You can do background images and whatever. You can add widgets. Generally, widgets show up in the sidebar. Sometimes they show up at the bottom. Just depends on where they're built into the theme, right? Sometimes it's a big header at the top, so you can have your easily accessible whatever campaign. I don't know. Just depends on how you want to go about things, but your users can easily add those. And then also there's the custom menus. These can be drop-down menus built into most things, so people can easily modify that. You can set it to dynamically generate your menu based on first level pages, right? Because you can have posts that are like your news articles, so it's always going to show the newest ones first. that you can have pages that are more static. And with your more static pages, you can have a hierarchy. So if you have like an FAQ or something like that, and want to group things into topics, that's a really good way to do it, right? And then custom menus, make it accessible. Okay, so that's easy peasy stuff that anyone can do. Lots of people can edit CSS. My customers do it all the time. This is a great option if you really only have to do a couple of things. Just remember, like online a lot of times people will be like, oh, there's this, I go into edit the theme, and then I go and find the style sheet and start editing that. Everything's good, only if not. Because once again, if you update your theme, what happens when you update your theme is it basically deletes the theme directory and then unzips it again. And so your changes will be gone with the wind, not happy times. Right, okay. This is just an example on the site that I have pulled up, which actually has a child theme and some CSS that I threw in there because I was just doing something really quick. This editor is actually not a part of WordPress core. It's built into Jetpack. But all it does is it adds an extra screen that adds an extra CSS file when your header loads, right? And so you can just throw in the last little bits because it's cascading the style sheet. Those are going to take precedence when the page loads. So this has, you can't see it on the screen very well, but it's color-coded, context sensitive. You can actually full-on take, like if you go into Inspect Element in Chrome, and you can just copy whatever's there and paste it in there, and it'll take out all the extra junk. So it's really pretty cool. Makes it easy for people to use. Oh, and it keeps revisions. So that's fun. If you need to modify the theme parts or add to the features, this is what you're going to do. You have a child theme. Who's heard of child themes here? Just so that I know where you're at. Okay. And there's more info in the codex on this. I'm just kind of, I mean, there's not tons and tons of time to go over all this, but the steps are pretty simple. You install the parent theme. You create your theme folder. All of your themes and plugins all go into WP content, typically, and then other themes or plugins. So you think, like if you're making a theme called Hello, you go into WP content, themes, and then make a Hello folder, and then you'll add a style CSS, and you go like this. This one is a screenshot of what I did. I just needed to add a few extra functions to a theme that I was working on. So you just have your theme name, which is the child theme name, description, stuff like that. You have the template, and this is basically the folder name or the slug for the parent theme, right? And then you have your version number. You can import the theme if you want to. In fact, I think there. This is a little clearer. You can kind of see what we've got there. You can import the, oops, I forgot to type the style.css on that, but you guys know that, right? If you're going to import a style sheet from the parent thing, you actually put style.css on there. Goes something like that. It's really simple. This is where Steve, who is running the conference, that's why he asked me to talk about this, because we were actually working on the Open West conference last year, and they changed the page. That's not what I designed, but I had initially made something in WordPress, and he's like, why do we have to use WordPress? I'm like, why would we not use WordPress? He's like, because I have this function that I want to use, and I can't use it with WordPress. I'm like, why not? And so I showed him that. I showed him all we had to do was make a child theme, and then, well, in this case, we didn't need to make a child theme because I'd already made a custom theme. And then just make a new page template, which I'll show you in a second, and insert his little bit of code there. And he was mind blown, and he's actually, you know, I didn't think anything of it. We didn't really talk about it after that. I thought he was still stubbornly using, or I'm sorry, I thought he was resisting a little bit still. But he came to me at this conference, and he's like, would you talk about WordPress? I'm like, why? I'm not a developer. And he's like, well, you convinced me to use WordPress. I'm like, are you kidding? And apparently he uses it for a bunch of his client sites now. I'm like, wow, convert, this is amazing, right? So anyway, once you have your, it's so sad, the colors on there, they're so pretty. Once you have your child theme, from there you can add new styles. These are supposed to be different colors, but we're missing red. You can add your new styles. You can replace templates for template parts. So if you want to add to a template part, you would make a copy of it from the parent theme and then add your stuff to it, because that whole file replaces the other whole file, if that makes sense. So you can add to your CSS stuff if you imported on top of it. You replace template parts, and then you can add to functions PHP. Because basically it takes all the parent theme functions, and then you can go and add your new functions or unhook stuff from the old theme, whatever you need to do. And then you can feel free to safely update the parent theme. Here's the custom page template I was just telling you about. I got ahead of myself. But you use that with the child theme. This is how it would look. Basically, you'd copy like your page PHP or whatever your template file you want to copy. And in this case, I did page-hello PHP. Then you need to add just this little header that will let WordPress know that it is a template part and it needs to pick it up. Or, I'm sorry, a template, custom page template. Like I say, I'm shy and nervous. That'll let you know that you need to pick it up. And then you can add the PHP. So this is what the entire template was before. Look, I added a little hello world straight from PHP's manual, so that's how you do that. There's some famous parent themes you guys have probably heard of. Genesis, Thesis. And then there's also, my first parent theme was Toolbox, which was it's kind of clunky now, but at the time it was really cool. Just really stripped down, no styles, just way super simple, and I dug it. There's something even more simple than that now, and more complex at the same time. We have starter themes. Has anyone heard of underscores? Yay, I'll get to tell you something new. So underscores, it's underscore S, right? Underscores. It's kind of fun. If you go to underscores.me, basically you will name your theme and click generate, and it will create a zip file for you that has all these functions and template parts and things that you'll need to use, but you need to add all of your own style for it. And so they call it like a 1,000-hour head start, because you will not have any influence of other themes in there, but you won't have to sit here and reinvent the wheel every single time you make a new theme, which is pretty cool. Yeah?
Is that similar to like the old Starker's theme, those kind of stripped down?
So usually the super stripped down themes I don't know that particular one, but usually those were intended as parent themes, so that you take it and then you do whatever to it, like fix the style or whatever. At least that's the way I had been using them. You probably could just take it and completely redo it. This one is specifically intended to not be a parent theme, so I haven't used that one, so I don't know. But there are other themes like that out there. There's,
What's the licensing on underscores? Do they care if you make money off of it after you've done what you want to do to it?
Joseph, do you know? I'm pretty sure it's
GPL. It's GPL. So to answer your question, no, they don't care if you make. If
Yeah, you can do public license.
If you build something nice and pretty on top of it.
Well, really quick, I know that there was that whole, was it Genesis or Thesis that had that?
It was Thesis, but yeah, the long and the short of it is it's GPL. So as long as you comply with
Yeah,
the licensing, you're fine.
Yeah. So he says, for the microphone's sake, he said as long as you comply with GPL licensing, you're good. So you can also start from scratch, straight up from scratch, if that's what you want to do. All you need for the barest of bare bones themes is a folder. Sorry, I should have added that. But a folder for your theme, and then a style CSS and your index PHP, and 1,000 hours work to catch up, right? So you can do that. So now we're going to talk about plugins, but not as much, because I don't know if you guys remember what I said at the beginning. But I am not a developer, right? I can kind of poke around in the code and do what I need to do and modify things, but I'm not a developer. So what I'm gonna do is refer you to some resources that you can use that will make total sense to you because they're well written and easy to use, but I just don't do things like this as much. If I did this for my full-time job, it would be different, but I like my full-time job. So you do, those are 2 URLs that are super handy, and I'll post those again later. Never had to write a plugin, but I can explain what's out there. Just in a nutshell, we have filters that are going to replace content. So I think filters like the little swearing filters. I once ran a forum that I thought it'd be really funny if any time someone said a bad word, I replaced it with something like Ned Flanders would say. That was on PHPBB back in the day, right? But so filters replace content. I'll show you a better example of one in a second. Actions let you do something, right? That's pretty easy to remember. And then the hooks are how you actually determine where you're going to do your filter, your action, right? Actually, I think Joseph would phrase this better, but I think the hooks are for the action, and the filters just go in your content. Again, there's that URL for your reference. Here's a filters example. These are YouTube embeds. You can see all the stuff that it's supposed to do. Looking for the part that it's harder because I can't see my colors. Okay, where's my action? Okay. Oh, well, add filter right there. You can see where it adds a filter, and then this is the hook right there, like when it's gonna act, right? The way they describe it on the codex is it's like, or no, the way they describe it in a book that I have, but I'm gonna do it right here, right? The way that they describe it there is it's like one of those Goldberg machines that, you know, the little ball goes through all these processes and stuff like that, and so your hook is just like inserting an extra piece into the machine and it tells you where to stick it, right? That's it. But anyway, so in that case, it basically takes your big fat YouTube URL, parses it down, and then turns it into an embed for people, which is nice. That's part of the Jetpack plugin. Here's an action example. We have a Twitter timeline. You can see where it says do action, and then it sticks it in the widget. And there's your Twitter timeline, and then you've got all your functions in there. So you guys write the functions and put them in that way. This is one reason I haven't written plugins, because usually, you know, especially when I was doing more freelance work, I really never called myself a developer because I don't feel like one, even though I did write some basic when I was like 9. I got beat up a lot after that, so I kind of stopped. But, and I probably should get back into it, but someone might throw rocks at me. So, why I haven't written plugins actually though, is I've never really needed to, because there are so many plugins out there that I can take one, find what I want. Usually I don't have to do very many modifications at all. There's one that I regret modifying as heavily as I did. I should have forked it. But Jetpack over here is actually a plugin by WordPress.com. Again, that's where I work. It comes with tons of stuff that you would want in WordPress, but it doesn't come in the actual core files. So things like, it has a subscription service, and spelling and grammar. One of the cooler features isn't on here, but it actually can dynamically resize images for you and cache them on a CDN and serve those for you. That's one of the reasons it uses a WordPress.com account. So that can make life a little nicer for you. It can generate gorgeous little tiled galleries that, you know, you can throw in a bunch of images of any size and it will kind of just arrange them nicely for you. And you don't have to worry about any of that because this one plugin comes with like, I want to say 20 at least different features that you can enable or disable. So if you want to write it better, like there's a contact form, I don't know if you can see that one on here. No, there's more if you scroll down that 1024 by 768, what do you do, right? There's like a contact form that's super basic. If you want to add more bells and whistles to it, you can make your own contact form plugin and disable this and still use the rest of Jetpack, right? So that's that. People worry about WordPress and security. They say it's a huge target, and they say it's so vulnerable and stuff like that. And I can say that when I did web hosting, I did worry about WordPress a lot, right? We had a lot of customers whose sites got hacked. But in every case, they hadn't updated their WordPress. And usually when they hadn't updated their WordPress, it was because someone had gone in and edited files, or they were ignoring their site, and so they just, they put up a site and forgot about it for 3 years, and then wondered, why is this hacked, So there's some security things you can do. There's some pretty cool plugins. I personally don't use the security plugins just because I try to just keep up on the security stuff myself. So I'm super out of rocket. But we have a list of things here, and when we started having our customers do these at the hosting company, things got a lot better. And like I said at the top of it, the current version of WordPress updates core itself, which is cool, again, as long as you haven't been hacking core, right? So, number one best practice, don't hack core, okay? Don't go in and just randomly start changing stuff. Don't hack your theme files. A lot of little tutorials online will say, oh, to add Google Analytics, all you have to do is paste this into your head. And that's cool until you update your theme, and then your Google Analytics are gone, and your marketing people are like, what happened? And it's a big mess, so don't do that. Just use a shell theme. When you're writing your plugins and themes, you can make sure that should be sanitize your input and escape your output. And there are functions built into WordPress to do that. They're all referenced in the plugin page, which I will show you that URL again in a minute. When you set up the default installation of WordPress, this is a security through obscurity thing, but seriously, it doesn't hurt. I mean, it takes 2 seconds. Don't use WP as your table prefix, right? That's the default, WP. Make it something else, make it random, and when you do your install, everything will be taken care of. All it is typing different letters in the table prefix box. So that I've heard is a good thing to do. This is not a security thing so much, but use translation strings when you are writing plugins or themes. Usually in WordPress, if you're looking around at the code, you'll see like __, and then your string in parentheses. There are a few different string translation functions, and if you do that when you use words in your themes or plugins, then your plugin or theme, if you choose to distribute it, can be, or if your company uses stuff internationally, can be easily updated and localized. So do that. Always keep your stuff up to date. When you create your username, everyone uses admin. There was kind of a worm going around that would basically, not exactly a DDoS, but kind of like that, because all these infected computers would just be out there hitting random WordPress sites trying to log in with admin and random password strings, and it just tries to get locked out if they got locked out. And basically when it got in, then that site became a drone for this worm, and now it would go and start doing this thing. That was a sad one. Not using admin as a username makes things a lot better. And of course, don't use stupid passwords. You guys know that though, right? And WordPress has like a strength indicator when your users are creating passwords. So here's a big one. A lot of times when people want to install plugins or themes, they will Google free themes and plugins for WordPress. Okay, because a lot of times you'll get sites that basically take the themes and plugins from other sites and package them with malware and distribute them for free. Super nice of them, right? Don't do that. There are some places where you can buy themes and plugins. Just make sure that you know that they're valid and they're good and they're well supported. Otherwise, only get them from the WordPress.org repository, because we do some scanning there and kind of check and make sure that they're and that they're okay. So, like I said, secure passwords. Also, one thing people tend to forget is keeping their computers secure as much as possible. You guys probably all know that. It's just your users. Don't worry about there. Just a little reminder. Don't hack core. This is a really cool orange background. We all know what it's like to be colorblind now. Well, just for the screen. Not fully colorblind, but for the screen. These are things that I use to, these are basically things I use all the time anyway. And the Creative Commons images in this presentation. These are just resources that are super handy. There should be one for learn.wordpress.com, more for your users. You don't have to sit there and train them on it because you have to actually skip past the whole create a new blog because you don't want them to do that. But it'll show them all the admin, or not admin, but their author functionality and stuff like that. So that's kind of nice. Another resource I relied on is for this presentation, just because, like I say, when Steve asked me to talk on it, I'm like, I cannot talk to a bunch of web developers because I'm not really a web developer, you know? I mean, I only do what I have to do to get stuff done. So I bought a book that better be in my bag. Oh, here it is, okay. Estimated retail value, $40. It's a good book. And I will give it away by seeing who can get closest to the number between 1 and 1,000. And you guys are interested in doing that? In fact, we can just do it right now. Is anyone interested in having this book? There's lots of, just as a quick review of what's in here, a lot of it is pretty basic in the beginning, like how to use WordPress, and then it goes into making things in plugins and references a lot of cool resources. So it's kind of nice. So I have a number in mind. Who wants to guess what it is?
500.
Okay.
789.
621.
700.
226.
443.
235.
333.
100.
My number is pi. You win. So here's your book. I hope you enjoy it. So, hopefully you find it handy.
Thank you.
Write a review on it or something, because that's always nice. Has a lot of cool resources in there, so I hope you like it. And then, of course, there's always resources that everyone uses for everything, like Google and Stack Exchange and YouTube. Oh, I forgot to capitalize that property. Anyway, and then just people that, you know, like, I rely a lot on my friends from WPSLC a lot. In fact, a lot of times when we go there, we have a little talk, and then afterward, we just kind of talk about the different problems that people are having and how to solve them, and like, brand new people will be there, and I love helping brand new people because it's actually something I know, and I'm like, oh, you can totally do this and this, and you know, new programmers will be helping new theme developers, and old programmers will be helping the new programmers, and it's just awesome. It's a great community, I love it. So, did you have a question?
Yeah, I was wondering, and I don't know if you know the answer to this, but we've kind of been evaluating WordPress, and there's so much like conflicting opinions, and I think because it's used so many different ways, and there's so many different types of sites. You know, my question is, you read a lot of conflicting stuff about how well it'll scale, how fast it actually is, and it's hard to test that because when you're just trying it out of the box, you have no content. You know what I mean? So it's kind of hard to benchmark. You know, if I get 1,000 pages or 10,000 pages, how is this thing going to
How's it going to
scale?
handle it? So just for the camera's sake, I'm going to repeat. Basically, your question is you're wondering how well WordPress scales, and you've heard conflicting information. You can't really tell out of the box how well it's actually going to scale. I can tell you how it scales for us. Joseph, do you happen to have the number currently on how many sites we're running on WordPress.com?
35 million?
35 million sites on WordPress.com. Lots of those are very active sites. It's one installation WordPress. So it actually scales really well.
Is it a
Huh?
multi-site then?
Yeah. We're running WordPress multi-site. That's what WordPress.com is. And we do run like kind of a, like we test new features before we commit them to core on WordPress.com. So
But now, so does each site on WordPress.com have its own database and that?
It doesn't have its own database, but it has its own set of tables.
yeah, he said it's going to have its own database. It has its own set of tables. Sorry, I've seen presentations I've done where you ask questions and you can't hear them. Anyway, so they have their database. They don't have their own database. They do have their own set of tables. So totally scalable. There are some really cool resources on WordPress.tv, which is basically like they'll have WordCamps. I forgot to mention that because I don't have my speaker notes, but WordCamps are really cool. Like once a year, usually in Utah, maybe. We'll see what happens if somebody will volunteer to do WordPress Provo soon. I don't know.
So some WordPress sites I've been to seem kind of slow. Is that typically because they've implemented a template that's bad, or
It could be a lot of different things.
they've just added tons of plugins?
Well, so one thing that a lot of people don't know, which is really pretty silly, is they don't cache their pages. There's some cool plugins for WordPress. Like usually, I didn't tell you what I do at WordPress.com, did I? My job at WordPress.com is to migrate people from our service to their own installations of the software, right? So if they can do it on their own, but if they want someone to hold their hand, do it for them, take care of all the files, make sure everything works nicely, and then give them 2 weeks of support, because I actually really love doing support. I'm weird like that. I really enjoy it, even when the people are jerks. I like making people happy because there's something wrong with me. But but I really enjoy it. Having done all those things, you know that system admin evolution thing that goes on, and they say the tech support is like the monkey. I've done sysadmin stuff and went back to the monkey thing. I just really like it. Anyway, sorry. So when we do this for people, we install WP Super Cache, which works really great unless you're on a load balancer, in which case you need to do some different stuff. But it caches the pages so you don't have to do all the MySQL calls and things like that, so it'll load a lot faster. If you're using the CDN too for the images, then your images are coming from load balance servers instead of being all loaded from your one site. So if you get a site that's getting a ton of traffic, those things can help a lot. The other thing is, if they're hosted, I better not say, but if they're hosted on hosting companies that pack too many sites on the server, obviously there's considerations like the server load and things like that. But generally, WordPress by itself does really well. If you have, sorry, microphone person. If you have a bunch of plugins, usually I recommend kind of keeping your plugins trimmed down. People have the tendency to want to install all the things. Don't do that. It just bulks up your site. But if you have a bunch of plugins, there's a plugin called P3 Profiler, and it'll basically just, the whole purpose of the plugin is to run a test to see which plugins are taking a long time, so you can easily troubleshoot, stuff like that. On that plugin document, sorry, we'll go back to this really quick. On the plugin document that's referenced here, it gives you some best practices for making sure that your plugins stay fast. So it's good stuff there. Yeah?
If you have plugins installed, but they're disabled, are they still using resources and slowing the site down?
No, they shouldn't be. They shouldn't be. So you can, that is one cool thing about plugins. If you're troubleshooting, you can just go through and disable things. If you're using cache and you're troubleshooting, not so much for a slow site thing, but if something's broken, disabling the plugin, then you need to go through the cache. See the front end of the way it should.
You showed the Jetpack plugin. Is that one plugin, or is that like 20 or 30 plugins? And is
You
that
install one
pretty common?
plugin. There aren't tons of super plugins out there. or I don't know what people call that, like a plugin that has like all these different features in it. There aren't tons and tons of them out there, but Jetpack is one that you install it and then it has all these things. One thing I really like about Jetpack is it actually has support, free support, so you can contact someone if you're having a problem, you know?
Can you disable pieces of that?
Yeah,
or-
you can. On that screen that I showed a little while ago, this one right here, on each of these you don't see a disable button, but if you click learn more, there will be like a deactivate.
And is this to give you more of a WordPress.com?
It is exactly to give you more WordPress.com experience, because we have multi-site and then we have some multi-site plugins, and then people migrate over and they're like, but my forms and this and that. And so we have Jetpack so that all those features that they're used to using are still built in a way that they aren't going to fight with each other, because sometimes plugins will conflict a little. So you had a question back here?
Yeah, what was the name of that caching plugin?
There's WP Super Cache, and
WP
there's also WP Total Cache, and there's Back Cache, and just a whole bunch of different caching things. If you go to the WordPress.org plugin repository, you can just search for caching, and you'll see those. When you pick plugins, just make sure it's something that is, you know, fairly recently updated and has reviews and doesn't have a ton of open, ignored support tickets, right?
Were you saying on these plugins we can go in and modify them or edit them, and it won't disappear when we update it?
On the plugins, no. If you download a third-party plugin, like from some random person, or like if you download Jetpack because it's a plugin, and you decide, oh, I want to change this feature of Jetpack, if you edit Jetpack itself, then when you update Jetpack, it's going to get lost. And so, but what you can do is you can write your own plugins, and you can say, well, I want to undo this particular function within Jetpack. So you write your own plugin that undoes that function.
Oh, okay.
Does that make sense? So we had more questions. Sorry, I wasn't paying attention to order. Yeah?
On your plugins and themes that are available on, you know, when you go to download them,
From WordPress.org.
are those screened by WordPress for like malicious code? Or?
Yes. So you asked if, I'm sorry I didn't repeat your question earlier. Can you, just really quick to go back to his question, he asked whether if you update your plugins, whether your changes will get lost. Yes, unless you make new plugins. And you asked if the themes and plugins on the repository are screened. The themes are very carefully screened. The themes, we have theme reviewers that go through everything. The plugins, there are some processes that check for malicious code and things that will definitely break WordPress. It is a little more wild and oily out there, wily, whatever the word is. But yes, it is checked for basic stuff on the repository. On other random sites, that's where you're going to get full-on malicious code just inserted there. So if you ever have a problem with the plugin on the repository, I don't think you'd ever find one, I mean, never say never, but I don't think you're going to find one that's full-on malicious there. But if you find one that even has some kind of a problem or is causing issues, you can report it, you can leave feedback, and other people will see that. And usually, the developer, if they're seeing some negative feedback, they'll be like, oh, shoot, I gotta fix that and take care of it. It's probably something that just missed. And they can fix it, so, yes.
Yeah, definitely read the feedback on the how many stars it gets and everything, because I spent a month setting up a WordPress site with an e-commerce plugin only to find out that it was crap.
Which one?
Everyone else said crap. I don't remember which one it was, but I ended up switching. It was so bad that there was another plugin that would import data from it. Like you could just like recreate, you could pay money and then recreate the entire thing, and like I didn't have any budget left at all in the project.
Oh,
So.
you're like, no, that would be pretty bad. So don't use plugins that have poor feedback. And also, a tip along the same lines, look at recent feedback. Because sometimes people will be like, this is the most amazing thing ever 3 revisions ago. So you kind of, or this is the most amazing thing ever in WordPress 2. You know, things like that you kind of have to watch for so that you're not putting junk on your site. Most of the stuff that's out there that's highly ranked when you search for plugins is going to be good. Again, one really great way to help that is when you use a plugin that does a fantastic job, leave a little feedback. right? So there was one back here, and then we'll come up here.
I see there's a REST API. Is that awesome? Because I love to use it.
There is REST API. Joseph can probably answer more about that. And in fact, how much time do we have left here?
5 over.
We're 5 over. Sorry, guys. I was gonna suggest a non-traditional Q&A where we actually ask each other questions, because I don't know all the answers.
Maybe not, is it for what?
What time is it?
3:30.
Is that 3:30?
3:30. But yeah, the REST API, there's actually some cool stuff on WordPress TV on that. And if not, I know that someone just barely gave a talk about using REST API with Jetpack. Just barely, so it's probably not published just yet, but it will be very soon. Like yesterday, I want to say Justin Shoup did, right? So there's some good stuff out there. And then
I guess a quick question with the roles. How easy is it to kind of to create custom roles as far as, I know there's the out-of-the-box ones, but if
there's
you,
the out-of-the-box
if
roles.
you didn't want people messing with the menu or that sort of thing, is that doable or is it kind of?
I'm sure it's doable. I haven't done it
So,
myself. Has anyone done that?
I'm sorry, we have a question.
You have a question real quick? Okay.
We're moving from a pretty large multi-site install, and we're trying to move to a version control and a staging server. Do you have any recommendations on how to move a large amount? And we have a lot of people touching it all the time.
Okay, so how to move to staging. I would check WordPress TV. I did that in one of the companies where I worked. I didn't plan it all, my coworkers did, so it's possible. The company that we were doing it through isn't doing that anymore, so so I don't particularly have some good advice for you on that, but do check WordPress TV because you're sure to find something that's useful there. So great resources there. It's like WordCamps everywhere, best of. Really good stuff. Way better than this. So, all right. And since we're out of time, if you guys have questions, like, I know a lot of stuff about it. I can't go into specifics on the programming end of things, but I can usually tell you who to talk to because I'm pretty well. I mean, I know the people in the community, so I can hook you up. And also, I don't contract ever with WordPress, so because I work at WordPress.com, that would be a total conflict of interest if I were contracting. But if you contact me, I do know people who I've been routing all of my projects to. So there you go. Thank you.